question for you.
Hello, and welcome to my very first deck tech. Or Jank tech. Yeah, we'll figure out a name for this. Anyways, this is a modern deck. I made it a few months ago and I forgot about it. But I came back to it because it's really fun to play and surprisingly cheap, only coming in around $100. And I got some good reactions from it online. So what is this deck, you may ask? Well, I've come up with a few names for it. They include Bad Ponza, Blue Ponza, and my favorite, Ponza Pabluza. But ultimately, it's called Temur Soup. Now, as I'm sure you know, or I hope you know, to make soup, you need water. Well, what's the magic equivalent of water? Islands. So, as the alternative name suggests, we're going to be messing with their mana base. We're going to be turning all their lands into islands, giving us the water for our soup. So we're running 4 Seeds Claim and 4 Spreading Seas. Essentially the same card, except Spreading Seas at 2 mana cost and we get to draw a card off it. So it gives us a bit of card advantage. So, like any good host, we want them to choke on our soup. I'm trying to make this more interactive for you guys. Not just a standard deck tech, it's more of a how to treat your enemies at a restaurant. We're running 3 chokes, simply that if we turn their lands into islands, they won't untap during their untap phase. That'll put us ahead. And like any good soup, you need some meat, you need some vegetables in there, and that will be the Ponza side of this deck. So we're running 3 Molten Rains, 4 Stone Rains, and 2, I'm not even going to pretend to try to pronounce that right, the Acid Mosses. So the nice thing about this deck is along with our turn 3 and 4 land destruction cards, we also have those Spreading Seas and Seas Claims for turn 1 and 2 land disruption. So that means from turn 1 to 4, we can be messing with our opponent's mana base and slowing them down. We just don't want to put them down though, we want to ramp ourselves up as well, and we do that using our 4 Arbor Elves and our 4 Utopia Sprawls. These have really nice synergy where you can put a Sprawl on a forest, and then use the elf to untap that forest. Playing the Sprawl, you'll probably choose blue, you'll see why when we get to our mana base, but playing red is also a viable option in some situations. So with all this ramp, what are we trying to get to? Well, we're trying to get to these sticky creatures that our opponents really can't interact with. We don't play a lot of creatures in the deck, so the ones we do play, we want to have around to finish out the game. We run a single Sagu Mauler. I don't think this card saw play in anything else. I may be wrong, but it seems like a pretty janky card to me. But it is a 6/6 for 6 trample hexproof creature, and we can morph it for 5. Next, we're playing 2 Thruns. You can't really say anything bad about him. Can't be countered, hexproof, you can regenerate him. Only thing that hit him is board wipes, spell queller on the stack. Other than that, he's golden. And finally, we play a single Storm Breath Dragon. Flying haste and protection from white. It's not necessarily hexproof, but it's out of the range of the deadly fatal push, and it can't be hit by the Path to Exile. So it's already dodging 2 of the biggest threats in the modern meta. If the match gets grindy or we had a slow start, we need to have some creatures to get us up there, keep us high in life. So that's what these creatures here are for. We have 2 Obstinate Baloths, 4/4 for 4. They come in, we gain 4 life. Could be considered a sideboard card, but here I think they're really great, especially if we get hit by a Liliana of the Veils. +1, we get a free 4/4. Next up is the fan favorite Thragtusk. We're running 2 of them. You can't go wrong with gaining 5 life on a 5/3 body, and then when it goes away, we get a 3/3. Hard to pass up. Finally, we're playing 2 Primal Commands because of the versatility. We can gain a buttload of life. We can put an opponent's land on top of their library, effectively killing their next draw. We can look for some of our sticky creatures, and we can manipulate graveyards. Moving on to the lands, we see here that they're all non-basic for the most part. And it's true, that's why that Utopia Sprawl naming blue is so important, because we are actually running no islands in this deck. All our blue sources are coming from dual lands. So Yavimaya Coast, kinda in here to bring the cost down. We don't really want to run the shock lands. If you want to spend the money, be my guest, go ahead. The Lumbering Falls is great because it can turn into a creature, and a hexproof creature at that, and come up, we can block with it, we can attack with it. It's just a very versatile card. And finally, we're running a single copy of Temple of Mystery. Just that scry off the top sometimes is great, so that's why it's in there. The rest of the land, the other blue source is Shivan Reef. Again, to bring the cost down. If you want to run steam vents, go ahead. I'm not telling you what to do. And then we have our basics with 9 forests and 6 mountains for a total of 22 lands. People might say, oh well, Blood Moon would really fuck with this deck. And the truth is, it can. I'm not saying it wouldn't. It would get rid of all our blue sources. But ultimately, our green and red cards make up the more aggressive part of this deck. And the deck can play as a bad red-green stompy deck if a Blood Moon were to come. But let's not think about that. Let's move on to the sideboard. Sideboard is pretty standard. We're running 4 Ancient Grudges to hit any artifact, Ensnaring Bridges, Affinity decks, etc, etc. Beast Within we can bring in to get rid of any pesky enchantments, and if we want more land removal, we can bring it in to destroy their lands as well. They get a 3/3 beast, but that might be our only threat if we can keep destroying their mana base. We're running 2 Boils. That's the other side of the Temur soup. It was originally in the main board, but I moved it to the sideboard. I think it's better in here, and it's a quick, easy switch if you have to do so. If you're playing a deck that has islands in it or a lot of blue sources in it, you can bring the Boil in and pull a Seas Claim or Spreading Seas out. It's not gonna hurt you. You don't really want to turn their islands into islands. So, easy switch. We have some Bolts for some quick removal. We have Anger of the Gods for Hate Bears or tokens or anything where 3 damage across the board would really hurt the opponent. In our deck, honestly, 3 damage across the board isn't going to hurt much. It's going to hurt the Thragtusk if we have one out, which will be replaced with a 3/3, or it will hurt our Arbor Elves. But all of our other creatures will survive an Anger of the Gods. And finally, for some creatures in the sideboard, we run 1 Chameleon Colossus. It's a great card. I bring it in all the time against Grixis Shadow or any Shadow deck. It's just great. Honestly, I'm considering running 2, but we're going to leave it at 1 for this. And we'll see how it goes. And 2 Oozes to deal with graveyards. And that's it. If you enjoy this deck tech, then please like and subscribe to see more of the janky deck techs, because I'm sure I'm going to be making more. And follow me on Twitter. Let me know what you think of this deck. And let me know in the comments below. Should be fun. I anticipate to put some games up on this deck because it's really fun. It's done well against most of the big contenders. Burn, Affinity, it beat out Lantern Control once, although that's a tough match. Death Shadows, both Grixis and Jund, basic junk decks, you name it, it can pull wins out, either through really grindy matches or very quick shutdown matches. So if you'd like to see that, let me know. And until next time,
Soup for you.
See you guys.